And so one of the things that we wanted to get done today is, again, bring some kind of sense around IoT and case studies and programs that we're doing. And so right now we're going to talk about case studies as it relates to development to deployment and all the pieces that it takes to do the development and deployment in IoT. And so we're going to start talking a little bit about that. So come on, guys, up, and we're going to go straight into it. So the format's a little different. Brian is with IoT Safety Solutions, and he's got a couple of slides. Slides, gentlemen? There you go.
So I'm Brian Garrepy. I'm a Director of Business Development at IoT Safety Solutions. And my experience kind of comes from their side of the world. Most of my professional career has been in the connectivity space. So whether it was at T-Mobile M2M and kind of the early days of their involvement in M2M and IoT, and I'll just keep calling it M2M if that's all right. But and then kind of through the MVNOs that are out in the market, through Rayco Wireless and through Core. So my history is all about wirelessly enabling products across all the different vertical markets. And I think that what that did is helped me, prepared me for being at where I am now. So IoT Safety Solutions is a wholesale provider of mobile PERS. And so we are selling our product to our monitoring company partners, who then sell it to the dealers, who then lease it to the customers. So it's kind of a simple model there. And
tell me when you want to go to slide 2.
Oh, okay. And so what we're focusing on right now in the mobile PERS space is the aging in place, and kind of the traditional PERS. You know, the old school way is obviously just kind of an appliance on your kitchen counter, and it plugged through a phone line, and you had a little lanyard, and you just press the button and yelled across the room, "I fall down, I can't get up." I mean, kind of the old commercials. And as that has evolved, it's now putting that technology here where now you're not just at home, you are at the grocery store, you're at Walmart, wherever you are, and if you have an emergency, you can hit the button right then. And that's traditionally just kind of on the voice side of things. It was all just voice related, and I think what I'm seeing is a movement into the LBS side of things that I'll go into. So we'll go to the next one. So I think what I wanted to demonstrate here, and we're talking about, development and deployment. I'm an ASP, and I'm always in development. I never stop developing, and I'm looking for partners to help me develop to my customers' needs. So I think anyone that's an ASP that's successful is listening to their customers, saying, "What do you need?" And how
they need to get rid of Aris, Core, AT&T, T-Mobile, Twilio.
I put you up there first.
I like that the logo is smaller. You're on a panel with 2 other people. I mean, I think these others should be removed.
All right, fair enough. So we'll come back. But I'm always
who
developing.
Needs a cocktail?
Did the cocktail start here?
I think we should start now.
All right, there we go. Can we get some drinks
Next
up here?
slide. Yeah.
Listen.
Sorry, you're right. So I'm always developing. What I'm looking for is partners that can help me bring those services to the customer. I'm listening to them. I'm asking the right questions. And when we get to Twilio, I think there are some things that Twilio is doing that's going to be catering to my industry that's really exciting for us. So, just kind of in a simple architecture of an ASP is hardware, software, network. I'm going out and looking at the hardware. What are the pieces of that piece of hardware that can cater to my customers' needs? We've had really good success with Micron. iHelp is another company. QuickLink's out there. We have some really cool products that we can tap into that bring the right services to our customer, and then obviously the connectivity. So now I'm looking for, do I go direct with the carrier? Do I go through an MVNO? There's all pros and cons to all of that stuff, and I think it's just based on what I'm trying to deliver to my customer as to what direction I go. And I think if you're going direct with a carrier, maybe it's a very kind of simple architecture, and you're getting a private APN and you're up and running. But when you get a middle layer like a Twilio, who can deliver new value-added services to me, well, I'm asking my monitoring company customer what they're looking for. What's your perfect world? Well, if I could only do this, and if you guys could deliver this, and I'm going to a company like Twilio and saying, well, my customer's asking for this. If I can maybe not have a mobile number assigned to my device, but maybe have an account number assigned to my device, so those are the things that you can deliver, because it will make it easier for them to sell it to the dealers and just kind of that whole down channel. And so I think that's what's exciting about this, is being able to put these pieces together. Of course, kind of the software layer I have a customer portal and a dealer portal, and I sell these services out to the market. I think the bottom piece to this is just really my big product. I'm a pick, pack, ship. It's the logistics of providing mobile PERS products to the monitoring center. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to have anything to do with provisioning and hardware and all the logistics. It's all just about they want to sell it to their dealers. So we're just a product on their portfolio, and we push it down to them. So that really, in my mind, is the big product there for us. It's how do I make it easy for a monitoring company to deliver this product to their dealers who then lease it to the customer. And I need all the pieces of the ecosystem in order to do it.
Hey, Brian, I'm going to have to say, PERS is?
PERS. I'm sorry, I just started. Personal Emergency Response Service.
Like what does it do?
It is a personal security device. Did I not start with that?
No, not that I
So
remember.
think about,
I've fallen and I can't get up.
I've fallen and I can't get up. I mean, that really is the old,
right.
the old commercials
We
and
have
the old
another
technology.
acronym that I figured I'd make
Oh,
sure.
no,
if
that's
there
all
was
right. I
other-
know, I start
Because this is
throwing-
an education session. Might be
You're
people-
right, and I just assumed, no. It's, the old industry of I just have a little piece or a little lanyard with a button and I yell across the room. New technologies today, and kind of you can see the Micron device up there, that is a wearable device that kind of sits either under your shirt or above it or whatever, and that is an SOS button. And now you are anywhere underneath cellular coverage, and you have an issue, and your issue it can be anything, you just fallen or you have an event. You hit that button, the monitoring center receives that call. Mrs. Johnson, how can I help you? And we're sending emergency services. And what I like about our product is that we have location services built into it. So it's not just, where are you, tell me where you are. It is, Mrs. Johnson, I can see where you are, and let me send services there. And that kind of differentiates our product from some of the other products out in the market that are really just voice-only specific.
Excellent. Ready?
Sure. So my name is Chetan Chaudhary, and I run our IoT and wireless business unit at Twilio. We'll take a step back from the screen, and just in case you're not familiar with what Twilio does, Twilio is a cloud communications platform. We sit in 100% in the cloud on AWS. We've got about 1,500 or so carriers underneath the hood of Twilio, and we provide a bunch of services. So as Brian was describing, we provide voice services, messaging, video, private VPN connectivity to our cloud, and then of course our wireless product in conjunction with T-Mobile. So last year, a little over a year ago now I guess, we launched a product together with T-Mobile where we built an abstraction layer above the mobile core within here in the US with T-Mobile, providing developers easy access to wireless connectivity. And so since we are a developer-first platform, we focus in on Brian's engineers that are sitting within their cubes, and they're actually trying to build something net new. So when they're trying to think about how to get connectivity, how to use a single API globally, and being able to consume that very efficiently, they typically will come to Twilio to do that. And again, some of the use cases that he was describing was the ability to make a SIP call out from his cloud. You can do that with Twilio. If he wanted to create a video PERS device, he could leverage our video stack. And of course, wireless, if you wanted to buy SIM cards today, you can buy SIM cards, get access to voice, messaging, and data, completely programmable, which means that you're in the call path, you're in the messaging path, and you're in the data path. This gives you complete control to set up routing rules, to change and manipulate sort of business rules that actually may apply to your business. And this type of flexibility is unique to a developer program today. So the next slide. Of course, even though we are an API first and developer program or company, we obviously have a console because people like a visual. We don't start here in the console first though. If you're a developer and engineer, you're focusing on the APIs, and really that functionality is where you would probably build and feel most comfortably, which was the previous slide there, which was the set of instructions or the API documentation. And in our console, you can do everything like activation, deactivation. We're essentially the connectivity platform layer above the mobile network.
Excellent.
And if you stop by the Twilio booth, you can get a free T-shirt today. So I got mine. It's a win-win.
is a win-win.
That'll be tomorrow.
Tomorrow's free T-shirt, not today. You want to get a drink. So Shelby Noakes, I'm the director of IoT at T-Mobile. I joined T-Mobile about a year and a half ago, and we are the Un-carrier. You've likely heard this in our consumer messaging for the last 4.5 years. I show this slide because we built Un-carrier 4.5 years ago off these 4 pillars of customer focus, simplicity, value, and more freedom. Customer focus, we were the first to bail on contracts and change the market that way. Simplicity, T-Mobile One was launched 6 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. One rate plan, taxes included. Now more freedom. We've added Netflix included in your plans. Value, obviously from a pricing standpoint. Well, I should say value is more like the Netflix example. More freedom is I can take my phone anywhere in the world. I just went on vacation and we stopped in New Zealand. I got off the plane, I was checking emails, sending text messages. I didn't call T-Mobile. I didn't alert them to my international travel. It's all just included. So we've kind of now, the last year and a half, trying to piggyback off T-Mobile's Un-carrier strategy and lead in an IoT Un-carrier strategy. So,
Can you do me a favor when I go to China? Can you give me more than 2G, please, without paying extra?
Not right now, not for you.
Just figured I'd
I'll give it
ask.
to TC though. Anybody. And I mean, we are limited by the agreements, but again, first carrier to offer unlimited data in these countries. It's
awesome.
I mean, it's a pretty
I've
cool
been using
experience.
T-Mobile One from my BlackBerry days with
Yeah.
unlimited data.
So for us, it's all about the network, right? What is T-Mobile's product? It's network. We partner with third parties. We work with companies like Twilio. We partner with companies in the industry that build solutions that go to market, and we support them. We're not in the business of writing software and building apps and developing hardware solutions today. It's our network. So some of you noticed and paid attention in the media that we spent $8 billion on spectrum to buy 600 megahertz spectrum. What that means is that will be our coverage map by the end by the time that we roll out 600 megahertz. So you can see we're going to cover every single square mile of the country. Now this is a future state, but it's the kind of investment that T-Mobile is making to be the best and biggest carrier in the U.S. Next slide. If you've used T-Mobile in the past, if you've launched an IoT application on T-Mobile in the past, you may have had a different experience perhaps a few years ago than you're having today. I'm looking at John Hewler, who we used to kind of pioneered the IoT space for T-Mobile back in the day, and he ran our business development channel. We were selling on networks that were subpar at the time and doing our best to uncover solutions that made sense for customers
Smoke and mirrors.
in areas that made sense.
But we made money.
All right.
We made
sold
money.
it.
We had a lot of fun. But click the next slide. This is our coverage by the end of the year. So this is a dramatic change. Again, if you haven't been using T-Mobile on your cell phone or if you haven't developed IoT applications for it, this is a drastically different view of coverage than it was several years ago. A couple of the key things in the bottom there. 320 million pops, that's population. We're about 315 million pops right now. We'll be at 320 million pops at the end of the year. 2.3 square miles of coverage. I think on the previous slide it was, half a million. It was just a drastic change in an investment in the network. And then the other big thing there is 3x the coverage. It's a lot of coverage. It's fantastic. So we're extremely proud of. I thought there was one more point on this slide, but I'm gonna maybe save it for the next slide. I got 4 slides by the way because I'm anchoring this presentation. One more. Hey, Brian talked for a long time.
So
Did you notice
pretentious.
that we had 2 slides?
Yeah.
You know what it's all about, though, right?
He's
Yeah.
very
This is what marketing handed to me, so I'm just going to go with it. Next slide. And last but not least in this slide, this sort of shows our evolution of networks as it relates to IoT. 2G was our network. It still continues to be a network that's available. We're going to have 2G up through at least 2020. That's what we're contractually committed to. I say at least because, who knows? We haven't kind of created a tear-down plan right now. I'm still trying to push marketing to potentially extend that. But right now, it's the end of 2020. Cat 1 LTE is fully available, 315 million pops today. If you didn't see the press, please go read the press release after this conference. We did announce narrowband, so we're deploying narrowband right now in Las Vegas and throughout the country. We will have narrowband fully deployed in this country by summer of 2018. So narrowband is obviously it's an IoT specific network for low bandwidth, low usage applications, for longevity to really compete with a lot of the LP-WAN solutions out there, and really just a network that folks can rely on for a long period of time. And then of course our evolution into 5G, which we don't have to get into much today, but obviously getting into the point where we have gigabit speeds and powering IoT applications even that use way more data than solutions did before, whether it's digital signage or wireless backup or edge networking or guest Wi-Fi. There's just solution after solution today wanting to consume more data at faster speeds in IoT. And so for us, it's a two-tiered approach. Build narrowband IoT, as well as M1, by the way, we'll make that announcement right now. We are, at the same time we're building NB-IoT, we are building an M1 network.
It says Cat
That's awesome.
M will be supported as needed. What
As
is that, like
needed.
if I want it, I get it, or?
Yeah,
how does
so
work? Does
that
work?
actually is a great answer to that question. I'm glad you pointed it out. Thank you very much, moderator. I thought we were friends, but that's actually a great. That's a great.
We don't need you, Steve. We're
So
good.
listen, Cat M1 is not as spectrum efficient as NB-IoT. So we're pushing NB-IoT because Verizon and AT&T already announced M1. So for us, the marketing win is NB-IoT. It's also where all the new sensor data and smart city applications are going to rest in this NB-IoT world, which is really important for us. As needed implies that, look, we'd like to steer people to NB-IoT, but M1 is going to be available. It's just not as efficient. So if we've got a customer of yours, for example, that's teetering between the two technologies, obviously we're certifying NB first. It's going to be available first, and it's more efficient for us to grow and scale the network. So it's our preference, but we will have an M1 network that supports IoT applications.
The NB-IoT does not support voice, though, correct?
It doesn't. No. So there's
So a company like us, where we're doing mobile personal emergency response, and it's all about voice. I mean, voice is actually a complex thing when it comes to an M2M application. I mean, typically it was all just data and SMS and SMTP binds and APNs, and you're up and running. But add voice to it, and it's actually complex. And I look at companies like Twilio who have, voice components and SMS, SMSC connections and all those kind of things. There's some features in there that are really catering to my industry, my customers' needs, their dealers' needs, the end users' experience and all that. But when it comes to a voice component to an M2M application, it's like, okay, I can't go to that route. I got to go this route. So almost, the technology that I need points me in the right direction. It's not just a choice. So which one's least expensive or something like that.
And as we talk, many people today so far have talked about how complex this is. It's not an easy thing yet. How do you make it easier for developers, for the Bryans of the world that are looking to deploy faster and get to market and not take years to develop?
Yeah, from a Twilio perspective, our approach is really through technical sort of solutions and really kind of talking through those solutions. So if you go to Twilio and you were to look at our documentation, it's very, very specific, very technical for the developer to educate them as much as possible. In addition, on the IoT and sort of wireless side, we've also created these blueprints to help provide a sort of a step-by-step guide with some video content that says if you're building a fleet tracker, if you're building an industrial monitor, if you're building a real-time monitoring system, here are the types of things that you need to look at. And that sort of blueprint allows the developer not necessarily to create that device, but allows them to get an idea, a sense of what it will take in order to go from concept all the way to production. In Brian's case, these guys have been doing this for long enough that they don't necessarily need that help. But when you're educating the market, the more that you can educate the market and kind of grow the pie, so to speak, the way to do that is to include and be sort of democratize communications for everyone. So once you lower that barrier to entry with some really good education, then anybody can start a new business, and the next thing you know, you have an Airbnb or an Uber or something that nobody ever thought of.
And so, Brian, as we're talking on this panel from development to deployment, what was hardest? Was the development of the app and putting it all together harder than the deployment piece?
Actually, yeah, I would say so. Looking at a monitoring company and what they're looking specific to my industry and kind of this mobile purse space, it's trying to find the right pieces that fit into their world. A monitoring company has gone out and bought software that you press your button and you're opening up a phone line. All of the systems that support that simple call, they're very complex systems, and I have to plug into them seamlessly. My sales pitch is I don't want to disrupt the way you do business. I want to enhance your business and those kind of things. And so I'm trying not to change the way that they do things. I'm just trying to plug into it, APIs, those kind of things. So I think that the development that my development team has to do is to say, how can I make this as easy as possible for you guys to just bring it in, and your dealers can then just access it. It's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, and Shelby, from a carrier standpoint, we look to carriers to help us get it going faster. pricing is there, coverage is there, modules are there, now we have apps, now we have partners that can bring us some huge value. What are the challenges going on right now of getting companies like Brian from development to deployment, because we all do not make any big money until this stuff is deployed?
Yeah, and so I think T-Mobile getting into the entire ecosystem, working with them, you mentioned modules, right, which just sounds like a given, but you can't take the same module and deploy it in the US as you can maybe perhaps around the world. So we might have an NB-IoT network here, but if you leave and go into Canada where there's not NB-IoT, what's your fallback, 2G, 3G? So the module story is really, really critical to make sure that we're working with those guys to have the right choices. We work with partners that we can educate them on what you need to deploy those solutions. So I think that's a key component for us to make things simpler by identifying those pain points that we recognize as the carrier. 2G, 3G is still a major play internationally. M1 is being used in some markets, MB in others. LTE is pretty prevalent, but they're different bands. So you might have an application that wants to deploy in the US and says, I want to go global. I can give you a global rate plan, give you 150 countries around the world to use the network. But if that module doesn't speak the language when you go to France, it doesn't matter. So there are a lot of components, and for us, it's just the last year and a half is engaging in the ecosystem so that that our partners are saying the same story. So you guys sit down and talk to a U-Blox or a Sierra or Gemalto, whoever on the module side, they have to say the same story, I would say, if I'm in there selling to you. So that's been a key task for us the last year and a half, is to educate the market. So because I can't get in front of every person.
Isn't it, from an uncarrier perspective, T-Mobile has been very adamant about, you guys just partnered with Netflix. You guys are partnering with other folks to bring value, and you sort of pick the best breed companies to partner with. And I think that's a very different approach from the very typical sort of AT&T Verizon story, in which that they oftentimes try to build everything in-house, or they try to consume everything in-house and just resell it to you. Instead, T-Mobile has taken a really great approach by partnering with Twilio as an example, or Netflix, or specific module makers, to actually bring the ecosystem and say, all right, if you're trying to build the best PERS device ever, then you're going to use this module maker. You're going to use this platform. You're going to get this best rate plan. And T-Mobile is sort of pulling companies along, and I think that that's a very uncarrier approach, if I could, that most carriers don't necessarily take to.
And I'll add one other uncarrier piece. The idea that from a module standpoint, PTCRB is all you need, and you can go from there after you get the product certified. You're the only carrier to do that, and that helps a lot with partners that we're talking to, and then being able to bring them to your network, knowing that it's going to be easy to get going without having to go through spending a lot of money and a lot of time and energy and effort to get it certified at some. Oh God, I hope there's no other big.
Yeah, right. Is there
there are carriers.
Labs.
Are those other guys? People?
Yeah, I don't think so.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
No.
As soon as they saw you, they left.
Great point, and I appreciate that. And if you'd like to learn about our brand new Safe for Network device testing that we have,
See how that works.
come see me afterwards. So it is very true. Devices on the network,
We're not supposed to sell here.
PTCRB is certified. But I want to correct you that we have actually changed it. We did it for two reasons. One, companies and partners were not representing T-Mobile devices or their devices as T-Mobile certified because we didn't have a certification process. So we did just create one for two reasons. One, it'll give us customers the comfort that, okay, you have a certified device on T-Mobile's network. And two, it does give us a chance to look how it works. There's no cost for it. Very simple process.
Yeah.
Work with our engineers. It's super easy. There is no debate of, is this going to cost me 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand? But we actually just launched, mostly because the message of PTCRB only was not landing in the space, and it was so it was just too easy in a way that folks were not getting the message. So Safe for Network testing is now required for all of our partners, but in a good way to bring the system, the ecosystem together.
And what I've done is, I'm working with all these OEM hardware manufacturers that are bringing products onto my platform. And one of the values that I bring to them is say, hey, I can help get you certified on T-Mobile's network, and there's no cost, and maybe there's some subsidy involved or something like that. Kind of build some value in it. But at the end of the day, we're getting them certified so that they can almost feel legitimized that they have a product, because you have to get AT&T certification, Verizon, and all the other stuff, and it's like, oh well, you don't have to get T-Mobile certified? No, you do. And let's legitimize your product by saying, let's get that stamp on there. So as I talk to OEMs, my first question is, what products do you have, and do you have one for T-Mobile and everything, and do you have it certified? Oh, you don't. Let's get it in there. So, I have connections into their SE group that I can, help bring products in to get certified.
So as we kind of conclude, tell us what you believe are some of the ideas that you would recommend to the audience on what all the pain you went through, but what's the most valuable lesson you learned getting from development to deployment?
It is, I think it's probably been said 100 times, it is a lot harder than you think. It really is. It's more complex than you think. I think that little device that's just connected to a network, I'll say it this way, I gave one to my mom, and I was like, I want you to use this. She's like, how does it work? And I just thought, there are 10 different companies in there. There are hundreds of APIs. There's all these kinds of layers and software and this connection to this monitoring company, and they have their own protocols. And so there's all these different pieces to it. And I started to try and explain it. I'm like, well, here's the OEM. She's, what's that? Never mind. So it's like, here's the hardware, here's the software, here's the network, here's my customer as a monitoring center. They're selling it to a dealer. It's just ABC dealership. They're selling mobile PERS products or traditional PERS products. They're selling it to you. Think of the 10 different companies that it took to get that into your hands. It's complicated. Yep. And, back to my connectivity days, I'm helping my company because of my experience to be able to bring that product to market, helping, deliver the value, and looking for the expertise of the rest of the panel here to say, how can I deliver new value-added services? I look at Twilio as an opportunity to say, this is just a traditional model. How can I change that model to cater to a monitoring center's needs? Because they have really unique needs. And, like I said earlier, if I can just wipe out a mobile number and add an account number, and all of a sudden that account number makes it so much easier for them to deploy their products to their dealers, well, then that solves a problem that we didn't even know was there. But I got to ask those questions. I got to go find partners that can deliver those services. It's complex, and I know it's been said a lot, but that's probably the best answer.
From a Twilio perspective, I think the best thing you can do is just to get started. I mean, you can't do anything by whiteboarding. You've got to start it, and it's a puzzle, and you got to start with the first piece. And we're, from a Twilio perspective, we're here to help with designing those other pieces to make sure you have a complete picture at the end.
Show me.
We're just trying to give a lot of network variety, and then be aggressive on pricing, and be simple to do business with. So I think we're encouraging applications. I think with the way that we work with partners to use more data, we want applications on our network to be synonymous with being better. And a lot of times that's by allowing customers to crank up the speeds. We have the network capacity. We've got the speed. We got the coverage and flexible pricing that really I think encourages customers to do more on our network than they would on a competitor's network.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to tell you that from my standpoint, I feel damn good that I'm only 2 minutes and 54 seconds over for the whole afternoon. Did I, all right? My job, see?
Let's hear it for Steve, everybody.
I had to do that. But I will tell you that the only thing I can add to this is that when it is complicated, we do need to educate the industry and the people that we are trying to do this work with. And there's no better firm in the world than 151 Advisors to help. And we are so happy to have done this again. Hopefully we'll be back here next year, and you will too. Please join us, and thank you so much for attending all afternoon.
Thank you.